Japan has trusted the United States for over 70 years. But now, in 2025, that trust is starting to break. Japan has helped the US by building factories in America. These factories have created over 800,000 jobs for American workers. Japan has also supported defense and trade deals with the US, but today, Japan feels betrayed by its close friend. Why? Because the US is adding high taxes on Japanese cars. These taxes are called tariffs. The US is also pressuring Japan to stop selling technology to China. And the US is making it harder for Japan to export rice. Japan feels like all of this is meant to hurt its economy. The car tariffs are a big problem. The US says Japanese cars are a national security risk. So they want to add taxes up to 25% or more. Japan's economy is already weak. So these taxes feel like an unfair punishment. The US also wants Japan to stop selling high-tech equipment to China. This limits Japan's business opportunities. And now the US is targeting Japanese rice exports too. Japan thinks this is too much pressure all at once. Japan is speaking out. The Japanese Prime Minister says these actions are disappointing and dangerous. Japan's top trade leaders say the tariffs are unfair. They want the US to cancel them. Japan's finance minister says this could hurt both Japan and the world economy. Even Japan's central bank says the future looks worse because of these problems. Japan has also invested a lot of money in the US. This investment helps America pay for its budget. If Japan pulls this money out, it could hurt the US economy. So now, Japan is starting to push back. US leaders say they are just trying to make trade more fair. They say Japanese car companies get special advantages. They also say it's hard for American car companies to sell cars in Japan. The Trump administration says the tariffs are about fairness and national security. They also say this is important as the world moves to electric and self-driving cars. But Japan is not giving in. Japan says it will not continue trade talks unless the tariffs are removed. A top Japanese official said clearly, "No deal unless the tariffs go away." This is a strong message from Japan. It shows how upset they are. Even the Japanese Prime Minister says a trade deal is still far away. Japan is taking a strong stand. No deal unless the US changes its actions. This fight is not just about cars. It shows a bigger problem between the two countries. Japan feels like it is not being treated as a trusted partner anymore. It feels like it is being used in a political game. If this continues, Japan's economy could suffer. But American workers could also be hurt. Especially those who have jobs because of Japanese companies. Many Americans might not realize how important Japan is to the US economy. If Japan pulls back, the effects could be very serious. Big industries in the US could be disrupted or even collapse. Let's look at why Japan matters so much. Japanese car companies like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan have been investing in the US for many years. They didn't just send cars from Japan. They built car factories in US states like Texas, Kentucky, Alabama, and Mississippi. These factories make over 3 million cars every year. Most of these cars are sold to American buyers. In 2023, almost half of all cars sold in the US were Japanese brands. Toyota was the #1 car brand in the US in 2024. Toyota sold more than 4.4 million cars. Without Japanese carmakers, nearly half of the cars on US roads wouldn't be there. These cars are known for being reliable, affordable, and often better than American brands. And then there are the jobs. Japanese car companies give work to over 500,000 Americans. Some experts say the number is even higher, up to 840,000 jobs. This includes factory workers, office workers, car dealers, and parts suppliers. In total, over 2 million American jobs are connected to this industry. These jobs bring in more than $90 billion in wages every year. This trade fight between Japan and the US is not just about rules. It could change both countries' economies. Japanese companies also pay over $30 billion in taxes to the US government. This money helps support schools, hospitals, and roads. These are not jobs that can be easily replaced. But now, the White House is treating these companies like a problem. The US wants to add car tariffs of 25% or more. This would make Japanese cars more expensive. Fewer people would buy them. That would hurt sales and could force Japanese companies to close factories or cut jobs. This would not only hurt Japan. It would also hurt American towns that depend on these companies. It doesn't feel like something a good friend would do. It feels like a betrayal. Japan has trusted the US for many years. They welcomed American businesses. They worked together on defense and supported US policies. Now, Japan feels like it's being treated like an enemy. And they didn't see it coming. The situation is even more difficult because Japan is stuck between two powerful countries. On one side, the US is threatening its car industry with high taxes. On the other side, China is selling cheap electric cars with help from the Chinese government. Japan can't compete with China's low prices and still make money. If US tariffs make Japanese cars too expensive, people will buy Chinese cars instead. So Japan is being squeezed by both sides, by US rules and by Chinese competition. Japan needs to adapt quickly, but it's hard with all this pressure. There's another big issue: computer chips. Japan makes advanced machines that are needed to build semiconductors, chips. About half of these machines are sold to China. Now, the US wants Japan to stop selling this equipment to China. The goal is to slow down China's tech growth. The car tariffs are also being used as pressure. The US hopes Japan will stop chip sales to China in exchange for removing the car tariffs. So this fight is not just about cars or rice. It's about technology and using trade to reach political goals. Recently, the US Congress sent a private and urgent letter to Japan's ambassador. It wasn't made public, which shows how serious the issue is. The US is worried that China will soon control half of the world's chip supply. These chips are important for cars, electronics, and military tools. The US wants Japan to stop helping China make these chips. They say that even if Japan loses some sales, its stock prices are still going up. The US is also investing heavily in its own chip industry. They want allies like Japan to do the same. There's one more problem. The US says Chinese tech company Huawei is secretly building chip factories and hiding its actions. The US sees this as a major warning sign. So what does the US really want? It wants Japan to choose sides, support America, and help stop China's chip progress, even if it hurts Japan's business. Japan is in a difficult position. It could give in to US pressure, stop selling chip machines to China, and hope the US removes tariffs. But that means losing control over a big part of its economy. It also means risking a fight with China, which is a huge trading partner for Japan. Or Japan could choose its own path and try to stay in the middle. Japan now has some big choices to make. It could focus more on electric cars to compete with China. It could build stronger trade deals with Southeast Asia or Europe. Or it could work on growing its own economy so it depends less on exports. Right now, Japan is looking for new partners outside the US that wants to protect itself in case things get worse. But here's where things get complicated: trust. When a close friend like the US starts using threats in trade, it changes everything. Japan has supported US goals for many years, even when it hurt its own economy. Now, facing high tariffs from the US, Japan feels betrayed. And Japan isn't the only one noticing this. Other US allies like South Korea, the Philippines, and India are also watching. They're starting to wonder if they could be next. If the US can pressure Japan, who is truly safe? This could damage America's image in Asia. It could also give China a chance to offer better trade deals with fewer conditions. Ironically, the US tariffs are hurting American workers too. Many of the cars being taxed are actually made in the US. They're built by American workers using parts from trade deals like NAFTA and USMCA. Instead of arguing in public, Japan is taking smart and quiet steps. For example, Nissan reduced production of its Rogue model by 13,000 units at its Kyushu plant in Japan. This wasn't a sudden move. Nissan had already expected that the new tariffs would cause problems. Toyota also made a smart move. It decided to invest more in Thailand instead of expanding in the US. These decisions were not random. Japan has been preparing for this situation since trade tensions started in 2018. They had backup plans ready. This shows a bigger change. Japanese car companies no longer see the US as a safe place to build cars. So what will Japan's car companies do next? Instead of growing in the US, they are moving to Southeast Asia. Countries like Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia are becoming new car production centers. Toyota is spreading its electric car production across 5 countries. Mazda has promised $150 million to build electric vehicle factories in Thailand. And most surprisingly, Toyota made a $2 billion deal to build an electric car plant in Shanghai, China. Just a few years ago, this kind of deal with China would have seemed impossible. But now, even China feels like a safer bet than the US. Japanese car production in the US won't disappear overnight. But it is slowly moving away. New car models are already being sent to factories outside the US. Japan is making careful decisions about where to invest. And it's choosing to put more money in other countries. So what does this mean for America's economy? How far will this shift go? The global car industry is changing fast. The effects will be huge not just for Japan and the US, but for the whole world. To stay updated on this important story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is just the beginning. Big changes are coming that could reshape the car industry and more.